Welcome back. Now we'll take your questions. If you have a question yourself, send it to us at QuranSpeaks.com. So Shabir, the question today is one that we've been receiving a lot about, and that's about Bill 62, the recent Niqab ban that has been passed in Quebec. So what are your initial thoughts on that?
Well, I think we need to deal with it from three different perspectives. One is how does this reflect in a modern democracy? Two, what is the Islamic ruling regarding this? And three, how do Muslim women fare, in balancing all of these issues, living in Quebec or elsewhere in Canada, or in the world for that matter? So the first issue is about democracy. And what we find is that thinkers worldwide are railing against this as discriminatory, and they're seeing that there's no need for such a law in a modern democracy. Quebec wants to emphasize its secular nature. But as a writer in the Toronto Star, who is not a Muslim, put it, it is ironic that this law was passed saying that we don't want any religious symbols in a room
where there's a
right,
cross.
right
yeah,
under a cross. So if so it's ironic, and it just shows the discriminatory intent behind this kind of, or the nature, even if there is no intent. But the result is that one can see a stark contrast between what is regarded as the status quo and what is looked at suspiciously as something new and different and foreign, and that we cannot really accommodate. And
one of the other points that's come up is the idea of religious neutrality within a democratic society. So what do you think about that? Yeah,
well, so if you're religiously neutral, then you cannot have laws that target one specific people or discriminate against one specific people. And naturally, when you make a ruling that one cannot come with a face cover, then you're really dealing with Muslim women, though a small minority of Muslim women, just about 3% of Muslim women in Canada, wear the niqab or a face cover. So you're dealing with that small percentage, but it is that identifiable group. And again, from the point of view of a democracy like Canada, where normally we are stressing inclusiveness and welcoming people from all different faiths and cultures, what may happen in the case of the women in Quebec is that some of them who are wearing the niqab previously may say to themselves, okay, well, this is the law of the land now, so I won't wear the niqab. I'll just go without the face covering and continue to access public services and so on. And actually, it may help some of the women to become more independent in this way. The law may actually force them to conformity to a more Canadian sort of lifestyle. But on the other hand, there will be some conservative women who might hold on to their practice, which they think to be sacred, and that may cause them to become more reclusive. And that would be contrary to the aims and objectives of Canada as a modern secular democracy. So it does not really help anyone to introduce a law like this from that point of view. So that's one aspect that I said we should cover. The other issue is, what does Islam actually say about this? Do we have time to discuss that?
Yes, please go ahead.
So there is nothing in the Quran that says that a Muslim woman must cover her face. Some people introduce verses of the Quran to back up their preconceived notion that a woman has to cover, but nothing in the Quran actually specifically speaks about this. Surah 33, verse number 59, which is introduced in support of the idea that a woman must cover, it does not actually say so, but interpretations of that verse and classical commentaries on the Quran say so. So it's the interpreters who said it, not the Quran itself. Third, we need to look at how does a Muslim woman govern herself in that situation. I've already hinted at the idea that some women may say, okay, this is the law of the land, I'm conforming. So even if one had the view that it is a requirement, one can still, in balancing the two things, say, okay, this is a situation in which I live, there's a law against it, I want to conform to Canadian law because it is not something that is so absolutely required as, let's say, we are required to pray. The Canadian law says you can't pray, well then you might end up praying in private because you have to pray.
You have to do that, yeah.
So this is not one of those laws. Nobody says it is so absolutely required. Some people say it is recommended. Some people say that it is more than recommended. It's a sunnah. Some say it's even stronger than that. It is wajib. So you can see it's a spectrum. And but nobody said it is fard, like it is such an absolute necessity. Some even say that it's not a necessity. Even those who say it is a necessity, they might say it is not for like the average woman, but the woman of exceptional beauty. So that means there's some kind of a judgment call here. So some women can actually make some adjustment there, and I think this will be the way to go, to say, okay, let's conform to the law of the land in this matter, because it is not such a matter on which there is no compromise in the Islamic faith. And of course, the broader view, as I've explained, is that it's not a requirement in the Islamic faith, but this is a cultural practice that was there in pre-Islamic societies, and Muslims just simply took over that practice because they saw that it did some good in previous societies. It reflected a higher level of decency and morality in the society. But we should ask, is there really a need for that today when there is so much nudity everywhere else? Who's going to bother to look at a woman just because her face is uncovered? So if it was a requirement, yes, we would maintain it, but it's not a requirement.
But what if it's for her, it's sort of that religious perspective, then in that context, would you still suggest taking this approach?
Yes, because it's not, nobody says that it's such an absolute requirement. Like, you know, to give charity is a requirement. You cannot say, I'll stop giving charity because the government is not allowing me to give charity anymore.
So it's sort of not mandatory as, like, for example, the 5 pillars of Islam.
Exactly. Yeah, this is something of, you know, that it's based on an interpretation. It is not something that God specifically said. If God specifically said it, then you would say, okay, well, you know, I can't move because God said it. What am I going to do? Do I follow God or follow the land? And I have to follow God. But it's not something that specifically is said in the Quran. It is something that people have interpreted a verse of the Quran to imply.
I'm sure we'll get a lot more comments and questions on this, so we'll continue at another time. Thank you very much, Dr. Shabir.
You're welcome.
Hey YouTube, we hope you benefited from this video. If you liked it, or if you didn't, let us know in the comments below. And if you're interested in learning more, check out some of our other videos. And don't forget to subscribe so you can get new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.